As someone pretty new to the One Piece community's consensus on a lot of topics, I've noticed that over the past few day or so, I'm not sure when exactly this video will come out, but ever since Yamato was first shown in the intro of the anime, I've noticed that there's been a bunch of vitriol about Yamato's gender being brought up in the community once again. I remember hearing about how this was first mentioned with Yamato's actual physical reveal outside of his kind of mask and long cloak. But now that Yamato is being shown in the intro, there's a bunch of people bringing this topic up once again. Now, why am I choosing to discuss this controversy? I haven't really discussed a controversy in the fandom at this channel at this point, but why this one? Well, I believe that with my knowledge and my experiences learning about gender identity, I feel as though I could provide a pretty down to earth and honestly, this is my truest viewpoint on the Yamato gender kind of controversy. Before I go in depth about the reasons I have, I thought it would be really good for you all to know my background and my experiences learning about gender identity. When I grew up, I was never really part of a religious kind of group. I went to church for many years of my life, but I stopped going when I was 12 because I just didn't believe any of it really. And in my high school years, I got to go to this really nice high school, but it was very religious and all male, and they were very strict about what they would teach us on LGBT concepts because of it. So many of my experiences that I had learning about gender identity came from the internet and learning about it online, but also meeting people in theater because I used to do theater in high school. And that's how I learned about a lot of stuff besides gender identity as well. I learned about a bunch of LGBT concepts from those kind of formative years of my life. What I'm trying to get at is I was someone who had basically no knowledge or concept of what LGBT gender kind of identification was, and learning about it in high school from the internet and from people I've known personally and like became friends with, it was very useful to have that mindset coming into it and realizing that all of this LGBT concept stuff is normal. It's just because many places in society try to push this stuff back that it's viewed in such a negative light. Now, I'm just going to get my thoughts out immediately because you've already seen it in the thumbnail. I believe Yamato is a man because Yamato chooses to identify as a man. I can understand where the cause of this controversy has come from, which is many people seeing Yamato's identification as Odin as more of an idolization thing instead of a true identity. However, Yamato still chooses to identify as a man. It may be from Yamato idolizing this man, but that doesn't matter. The reason for identifying doesn't matter to anyone else except Yamato. And if Yamato chooses to identify as a man, then he is a man. Specifically in One Piece, there are many characters that deviate from the gender binary, and I believe that two of them specifically are very good to talk about when it comes to gender in regards to Yamato. The two I'm going to discuss in this video as a kind of lead up to what I believe about Yamato are Bon Clay and Okiku. Bon Clay, we all know Bon Clay. He's an absolute legend. But Bon Clay does not identify as a he, him in regards to gender. He prefers to be called he, him because he goes by Mr. 2 Bon Clay. However, there's always been this idea of gender deviance when it comes to Bon Clay because Bon Clay in Baroque works is identified as both a Mr. and a holiday, which is the classifications of male and female agents at the same time. This is because Bon Clay is an Okama, and what Okama are in One Piece, for those who don't know, are essentially kind of stereotypical caricatures of how Japan would view the LGBT, specifically the homosexual and transvestite kind of groups. And this is a bit controversial in itself. The characters that are shown to be Okama, however, are represented as being very well-respected characters within the world of One Piece. I can't think off of the top of my head of a character that dislikes Okama in the world of One Piece other than Sanji, because they make him question his own masculinity. Another Okama that many people actually did not expect to be an Okama at all was Okiku. It was revealed in Wano Act 2 that sexually Kiku is a man. However, in her own words, she is a woman at heart. Another topic that I wanted to bring up specifically with Kiku is the fandom's presumptions about Kiku's role in the story after learning about her true sexuality in regards to feeling cheated in some form. I remember when the concept of a traitor was brought up in the group of the Scabbards, many people instantly assumed it was Kiku based off of the lack of knowledge we had about her, but also this reveal that Kiku actually is sexually male while identifying as a female. I feel as though this strongly relates to how many people are viewing Yamato's gender identity at the moment. Now, why did I choose these two characters specifically though? Well, Mr. 2 identifies as a man and looks like a man. Now, Okiku identifies as a woman and looks physically like a woman, although being sexually a man. Why does this matter in this specific regard? When Yamato was first introduced with the mask and the cloak, everyone was very genuinely intrigued about this son of Kaido character. However, the second that Yamato removed the mask and the clothes, the she/her pronouns started coming out because Yamato is sexually female. This matters because Bon Clay and Okiku come with the presumption that they are identifying as the physical attributes they seem to portray. Bon Clay is Mr. 2. Bon Clay is very masculine while being effeminate with his actions, and we assume that Bon Clay is identifying as male. Kiku looks very feminine while being a man, and we assume that Kiku is female because of her looks. And that is why there's a bit of a shock when it's revealed that Kiku is sexually a man. Now, in regards to this Yamato controversy, it seems as though people can't understand that gender is not related to sexuality really at all. Yamato identifies as a man because he wants to be just like Odin. There might be something more to it, we don't know yet, but for what we know, there is Yamato's reason. Yamato could identify as she, her, or they, them, or he, him at any time because that's what Yamato wants to do. I've seen a lot of people say that at some point later on in this arc, Yamato will start to identify as she, her, because he will realize that he can be more than just Odin, because he can be Yamato. But Yamato changing their pronouns to she, her does not necessarily matter in that regard, because Yamato could just want to continue identifying as he, him after identifying as those pronouns for so long. Gender is a very fluid and personal concept in our world, and a lot of people choose to relate gender to sexuality intrinsically. However, I feel as though if someone chooses that they want to identify as something, it doesn't really affect me, at least. I know it can affect other people, especially if they're born in a very religiously, intrinsically, this is the value society, and I understand, but at least for me, it really doesn't matter. They can choose whatever they want to identify as, and it will never affect my life because it's something that doesn't really affect other people. It's something that they choose to be because that's what they feel comfortable identifying as. I don't think this will be a very controversial video in comparison to many of the other takes I've seen on this topic, but I hope that this allowed some people who were more convinced that Yamato should identify as she, her, to realize why it's important that Yamato identifies as he, him, because it opens a lot, not just for Yamato as a character, and it gets you a deeper look at who he is really, but this is also a great step forward towards representing gender identity, especially in such a massive series that is One Piece. I feel as though the Okama were not the greatest executed attempts at having gender identity discussion, but I think the examples like Hiku and Yamato are a really great step forward for teaching especially young children about this concept in the world. I had a lot of fun making this video. I didn't expect it to be as compelling, for me at least, since I usually don't talk about this kind of stuff to such an extent usually. I usually try to steer clear of controversial discussion, but I felt like I had something to add to this one because of my experiences learning about gender identity. And I hope you all enjoyed this video because I actually put a lot of effort into trying to make sure that I get my points across in a pretty eloquent way. I feel as though people can really easily misconstrue this kind of issue and make it seem insignificant or try to downplay people who try to place the benefit in those who are in the minority. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I would really appreciate you sharing this around, since I feel this take is something that hasn't really been said yet, but to be fair, I haven't been searching insanely hard for these takes. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and have a good one.